Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day trial at www.audibletrial.com, Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Episode 25, Rocket Racer. Hi, this week on the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show, we'll be rocketing through the ups and downs of one of my favorite and fairly obscure Spider-Man villains who actually turned hero, the Rocket Racer. But see, since he started out as a villain, that's why he's going to be on this episode, a villains episode. And that's what we'll be doing on the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show. We'll be learning and talking about the origins and backstories of heroes, villains, and sidekicks throughout the comic book universe and pop culture. Now, we're going to look at, of course, your popular heroes, but we're also going to be taking a look at some of the more obscure characters that you may have never heard of, but I think you'll dig. So let's get into the origin of Robert Farrell, aka the Rocket Racer. Robert Farrell, aka Rocket Racer, was born in the heart of Marvel's superhero mecca, New York City, Brooklyn to be specific. He first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 172 way back in 1977. Rocket Racer was created by writer Len Wein and artist Ross Andru. But we didn't actually get to learn about his origin until Spectacular Spider-Man 104. So this is one of those first appearances, Spider-Man 172, where the character is introduced and he's, fighting against the good guys and all, but we don't find out who he is. And it isn't until, again, Spectacular Spider-Man 104 that we actually find out the origin of the Rocket Racer. Robert has a simple but powerful origin that propels him into a life of crime. When Robert's mother dies, he, being the oldest of many brothers and sisters, becomes responsible for raising them. Now, he couldn't earn enough money to support his family, so he does what he has to do. The Rocket Racer does not have any metahuman abilities, but he is a quite intelligent person who is gifted in electronics and mechanics and making things. So what he does is he actually develops and builds his own rocket-powered skateboard. That's right, a rocket-powered skateboard. Now, Robert not only designed and built his rocket-powered skateboard, but he also created his weapon-laden suit that shot out energy beams as well as rocket-powered gloves that, when he turns them on, allows him to deliver what he would call a rocket-powered punch. And I love the color scheme of this character, his suit. It's red and gold, and it really, it's just very iconic, this red and gold color. But what really sets it off, and which I love the most about this suit, is this large yellow visor across his eyes. And the best part are these huge headphones, these huge red headphones over his ears that are just red, and they look really cool. I love the costume. I've always dug Rocket Racer's costume. Rocket Racer then embarked on his life of crime to support his family. Now, things do not go well for Robert, and he comes up against Spider-Man. And although he has a lot of style, Rocket Racer is soundly defeated. He's webbed up, and he is literally dropped on top of a police car in the first 4 pages of the issue. 4 pages. I mean, the guy's on the cover, and he looks really cool, and the first time he goes up against Spider-Man, he loses and is arrested in 4 pages, and then he isn't in the rest of the issue. That's it, 4 pages. And I think the Molten Man is in it for the rest, so it's really strange. And we don't even get his origin in that issue. So why did I want to talk about Rocket Racer? Well, this issue, his first appearance, was actually one of the first 5 comics I had when I was young. I don't know who, but someone had given me some comics, and they were in the house, and I read them all the time. And I remember just reading this one with Rocket Racer just constantly. This and what was Devil Dinosaur number 2 I read like they were going out of style. But Rocket Racer, there's something about him, like I mentioned earlier. His costume, the skateboard, I loved it. I was from a small town, and that might have been the first time that I ever saw a skateboard. And here it was rocket powered. So it was pretty cool. So we finally get to learn Rocket Racer's origin in Spectacular Spider-Man 104. We not only get his origin, But Rocket Racer also gets an upgrade to his homemade equipment from none other than the Tinkerer. And we're actually going to be having the Tinkerer on an episode coming up in a couple weeks. Now, the skateboard has updated micro rockets, magnetic clamps, and more speed and maneuverability. He fares much better this time around, and he's actually able to outrun Spider-Man, or should I say outroll Spider-Man, and he escapes with, this briefcase that he was hired to steal. Rocket Racer was hired to steal some documents for Jackson Wheel that proved Wheel was embezzling funds from his company, so he wanted to get that information. He didn't want anyone to see it, so he hired Rocket Racer to get it. For the case, Jackson was going to pay Robert, the Rocket Racer, $10,000. But when Jackson opens up the case, he is looking for these papers he calls the Minerva documents that proves he is an embezzler. But they're missing. It turns out Rocket Racer also upgraded his criminal methods to include blackmail. He now demanded that Wheel not only pay him the $10,000 for the case, but an additional $10,000 for the Minerva documents. As Robert leaves Wheel, he mocks him, calling him a big wheel. Later in the issue, Rocket comes up against Wheel again and asks him for his money, tells him he wants it, roughs him up a little bit, and tells him that he can do anything he wants and go wherever he wants because of the upgrade to his skateboard by the Tinkerer. He then takes off. Wheel then sort of looks off frame and says, "The Tinkerer, eh?" At this point, we realize, Wheel is going to go check out the Tinkerer and see what he can get from him. And be sure to check out the post for this show over on the episodes page at heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com, where I've added tons of images from this issue and just some shots that I found here and there on the web. And now a quick word from our sponsor. For you, the listeners of the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Now, I've been using Audible for a while. I think I've been using them, I can't even remember how long. I know I've gone through several, different upgrades of their system. I think the first book I ever got off of their site was The Time Traveler's Wife, which would have been quite a while back. So they have got just a ton of great books, all different types of genres, obviously. But I'd like to recommend one that I've been recommending a little bit on the show, of course, is the Marvel Comics, The Untold Story. I love that book, and listening to it has been really fun. You can also listen to American Gods. They've actually got a 10th anniversary edition that's a full cast production. It is fantastic. And lastly, The 10-Cent Plague, the great comic book scare and how it changed America. Really sort of great history book on the whole, seduction of the innocent and all that kind of stuff. Just a really interesting, I was going to say read, but a very interesting listen. So to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/heroes, villains, and sidekick. Again, that's audible.com/hero, villains, and sidekicks for your free audiobook. And now back to the show. Spider-Man again comes up against Rocket Racer. However, during their battle, Jackson Wheel shows up riding inside, wait for it, a big wheel. See, he had the Tinkerer make him a big wheel because Rocket called him a big wheel, and his last name is Wheel. Get it? It's not very subtle, but I have to say this thing he's in, this contraption, this big wheel, I keep saying big wheel a lot, it looks pretty cool. So Big Wheel tries to kill Rocket Racer and Spider-Man, but Spider-Man webs up Rocket Racer to get him out of the game, get him out of the way, and then what happens is Big Wheel loses control of his weapon, his little wheel weapon, and he crashes into the ocean. Now, during all the hubbub, Spidey loses track of Robert, and he thinks he might have fallen in, and he's webbed up, so he dives in to try to find him, but to no avail, he doesn't find him. So we're left to wonder, and Spider-Man is left to wonder, did Rocket Racer escape or did he drown? Now, as you may have guessed, Rocket Racer escaped and was very much alive. So Rocket Racer goes through many more minor battles with Spider-Man and is defeated each time. And he even does a short stint in jail. It's after that he decides to go straight to get his GED and then attend college. I mean, the kid's a genius. He just needed a chance. I mean, he built a rocket-powered skateboard that he could adhere to, and he could shoot rockets out of his gloves. But unfortunately, during his first week attending Spider-Man's alma mater, Empire State University, a group of skinheads arrive on campus, stirring up trouble, harassing students, and attacking African American students. Robert cannot let this stand. He is angered by these just disgusting human beings being on campus, and he puts his suit back on and is going to sort of take care of these guys. And Spider-Man shows up, and they're all fighting these skinheads, but Robert is overcome with anger and disgust at these people. And while he is fighting, and him and Spider-Man are fighting this sort of lead skinhead, this skinhead is like holding this chemical, jar of, really corrosive chemicals over his head, and Rocket launches a rocket at the canister. And Spider-Man tries to stop him, but it spills all over this head leader of the skinheads. And Rocket is he's a good guy. So even though this person is a skinhead and just a detestable human being, he feels bad, and he leaves and runs to go, or skates to go, get a doctor to try to help him. But by the time everybody gets back, the skinhead is gone. He hasn't died. This chemical, it changed him, and it sort of ate away at his skin, so he looks like you can sort of see his musculature. And in the end, he actually just kind of sort of turns into like an amoeba-ish type blob. But he actually calls himself Skinhead, the White Redeemer. It's very strange. And again, I have lots of pics over at the site, heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com. It's a really strange page, seeing him, all just musculature, saying he's Skinhead, the White Redeemer, and all these other idiots with little swastikas and stuff carved into their faces, standing around him cheering. Very strange page. So Robert leaves his Rocket Racer persona aside and continues his education. But then one day he sees on TV that Spider-Man is being accused of committing a crime, of being a thief. Now, that was happening a lot back then, but Robert will not have it. He knows that Spider-Man is a good guy and not a thief, and he dons his rockets once more to prove Spidey's innocence. Now, in doing this, he comes into contact with Sandman, Prowler, Puma, and Silver Sable, who are all working on the case in different sort of areas and in different ways, and they team up to work together and save the day and prove that, Spider-Man is, of course, innocent. And it's then that Silver Sable recruits Rocket Racer to be part of her new team, the Outlaws. So Rocket Racer is then part of the Outlaws, and, they show up in comics here from time to time. Rocket Racer then shows up during the whole superhero registration period and decides he will register and serve his country. He's also hoping that you get paid for this, because again, he needs money. He's always trying to figure out how to support his family. He reports to Camp Hammond, where he trains, but he still needs cash again for his family. So he does some odd jobs for some baddies like MODOK. So it looks like Robert is slipping back into his life of crime. But later, we learn that he's actually under deep cover for S.H.I.E.L.D., proving he is a true hero. Now, you can also see Rocket Racer on television. He made a jump from comics to TV and starred in one of the episodes of Spider-Man, the animated series, back in the day, the whole Fox Kids Saturday. And it's a fun episode. I actually just rewatched it. And in the episode, it's pretty much like the arc of the character. There's Big Wheel in it and everything. And I actually put a few clips of it over at their site, heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com, so you can go over there, check it out, and watch it. Rocket Racer, no matter how hard he has it, has always shown he is a good guy and a hero. Now, I've mentioned I'm a huge Flash fan, but I'm also a huge Spider-Man fan, and I think I've read every issue Rocket Racer has been in. I've never really been sure why I like the character so much, but I think I like the idea of someone doing, whatever they have to do to provide for their family. And then when they realize it's not the right thing, they try to pivot and do something else. He made a terrible mistake and decided to be a villain. Then, his heart wasn't in it, and he pivoted and he showed who he really was, who was a hero. So yes, I did put him on the episode side or the villain side for this episode, but I think I'm going to make it as a rule, if they started as a villain, I'm going to put them on the villain side, and then of course talk about how they redeem themselves. And Rocket Racer certainly did redeem himself. Well, I want to thank you for listening to the show this week. Head over to the site heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com to check out the post for this show on the episodes page, where you can take a look at all the images and videos that I've posted. There you can also listen to the show, but better yet, head over to iTunes and subscribe and leave a review. I know a lot of people are listening out there, so if you have a minute, whether you subscribe via iTunes or not, head over to iTunes and leave a quick review. The more reviews we have, the higher the show moves up the rankings in iTunes, which helps other people learn about us. Now, if you have a character you'd like to learn more about, head over to the website, heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com, and there you can actually leave me a voice message by just clicking on the little microphone, the little green button right at the top of the page, and just tell me who you'd like to hear the origin of or the story behind and why, and I'll actually use that message on the show for that week. So the first person who gets over there this week and puts in a voice message, that is who we'll be doing next week, and I'll be sure to add your voice message to the show. Well, again, I want to thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with more. Take care.